I now have the pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Paule Mauffette. Paule was born and brought up in Côte-des-Neiges in Montreal. She has a bachelor's degree in history from Université de Québec à Montréal and a master's in history from Concordia University. At age 21, she left as a CUSO, Canadian University Service Overseas volunteer, for 2 years to teach history in Sokode, Togo, West Africa. Her Togolese students were the first students she ever had. Back in Montreal in 1973, she began a long career as a history teacher at Cegep Ahuntsic in Montreal. Retired after 37 years of teaching at Ahuntsic, Paule Mauffette led a project in social economy upon the employees of Cegep Ahuntsic until 2015. She has numerous publications, including Histoire de vivre ensemble, semblables et différents, dossier interculturalisme, and Le petit lexique de l'économie sociale. And with that, I will ask Paule to come up and speak with us.
Hello, everyone. And the first thing I could say is thank you for inviting me. It's a moment very interesting for me to meet the congregation. And I see that everything is well organized and the place here is very inspiring. So thank you very much. The second thing I want to say about my English is that I learned English when I was 2 or 3 years old with my friends. So the quality is not is not always present. I like Caitlin just said, I studied in Concordia for my master's degree, so I had to, of course, upper the level of my English for that question. But as an example, the first paper I gave out in English, the professor noted me and said, "Next time in French, please." So, so that I was in the dictionary with all kinds of words, and he said, "Come on, please," in French. So, after that, the subject is the national anthem, Canada, our country. And the thing is, I used this studying with my students, asking them, why don't you study a national anthem of your choice? Okay, so then we had, through the years, 10, 20 examples, some come Holland, Haiti, all kinds of countries. And the idea is to say, discover what a national anthem means and delivers as a message to you. And then we would study, of course, the Canadian anthem, because that's the country in which we live. Okay, so the French version of the Canadian anthem was written and put into music in 1886. And Basile Routier, a journalist, and Calixa Lavallée, a musician, were the ones who took the initiative of giving Canada a personal national anthem. Because, of course, in those years, the end of the 19th century, God Save the Queen was the national anthem. But then these French-speaking Canadians had the desire of having a theme that would, a national theme that would represent them. So not a word has been changed since that time until today. As for the English version, it came later, 1906, since Canada maintained God Save the Queen until First World War and even after. So The lyrics in English, they have changed 3 times. Nobody thought it was exactly what they wanted. They wanted to change this time, that time. So the English version and the French version were, let's say, consecrated as the final version only in the 1980s. So some countries have the same hymn for 300 years. This is not the case for our Canadian anthem. That's one, like I said, what I'm going to say to you this morning is like food for thought. It's not declarations or, I'm not making history here, but it's food for thought is what you can bring home and think about it. So for this, the status of the national holiday next week, it's the contrary. In English, throughout Canada, it will be Victoria Day or Queen Victoria Day. It has been since 1867, Confederation, and never changed. It's Victoria Day, okay? Because for the province of Quebec, this statutory holiday has changed names since the last 40 years. La Fête de la Reine, which is the translation, but nobody knows what queen it is. La Fête de la Reine, so since we're having our Queen Elizabeth for is it 60 years of, well, okay, so everybody thinks it's the birthday of Elizabeth, which is false. So c'est la Fête de la Reine, any reine. So, and then la Fête de Dollar, with no value, and then now la Fête des Patriotes. None of these denominations are satisfying nor significant. So probably it will still change. And for English, never changed. And in fact, the reality is the birthday of Victoria was in May, that 24th or 25th of May. And on May 67, she decided that Canada would come to life on the 1st of July. She's the one who decided, and said, you will remember me, my birthday in May. So it's like an order. No surprise that the 1st of July is not celebrating independence or a victory of an enemy or the end of an enslavement. Like most countries celebrate a special day in the year. For Canada, the 1st of July does not transport an emotion properly Canadian, a Canadian emotion, 1st of July. It has been ordered by Queen Victoria. In the French version of our anthem, the main purpose stands on the people. When you read, I insisted, and Caitlin did it very well, that you have the lyrics, the words of our French version and English version of our anthem, because the main purpose in French are on the people, what they combated for, their sufferings, and a brilliant history. That's why the importance of the memory, Je me souviens, is very important. In the hymn, you can see it on our plates for the cars there, Je me souviens, and it's a symbol of what is very important for this people. About they're properly, in the French version, no importance on the territory where we live. It's not so important. The Canadians, our French language, can be living anywhere in Canada in our national anthem. It can be in the Maritimes, Manitoba, Ontario. It doesn't matter in the national anthem in French. A long history of defending the rights of the people. French-speaking people in Ontario, in Manitoba, lots of events in Canadian history are marked by that minority. What our national anthem calls for is defending the rights of the French minority. Protégera nos foyers et nos droits. So, in the English version, it's different. Insistence is given to the land, the true north. No allusion in French about the North, Canada's in North, nothing. The true North. And the land is wide and spacious. This is our country. This is our country in the North. This is our country. The land is very important. And the national anthem in English calls for patriotism based on protecting the country itself. Not so much the people. Of course, there's people on the country, but I mean, when you look at the words, it's interesting to notice the nuance between both versions. And the importance on the land is, let's in English, represents un défi. Please help me. It represents, thank you, represents a challenge for the introduction of the rights of indigenous people, which insist on the land. See, so that's kind. I told you, food for thought. Just thinking about that takes time. When in 1982, a constitutional recognition of Native people rights as part of First Nations, a confusion rises. In the national anthem in French, there is an understanding of the rights of a minority in Canada. Okay. And in the national anthem in English, a profound misunderstanding about the territory, the land. So it's like both versions do not correspond. Indigenous people are not Canadians. They never recognize that. So they don't, the national anthem in French or in English do not correspond to Indigenous people. They don't want to hear about that at the moment where we're speaking. And what about patriotism? Loving our country, wanting to defend. In the English version, it's wanting to defend the country. Conclusion. Canada is a country compelled and forced to respect rights of minorities throughout its history. There's no choice. From the simple beginning, I put different history guidelines, historic guidelines beside this country in 1763. A British king took an arrangement or an agreement with French king, and they said, okay, you can have it. Okay. Of course, it's not like that, but let's say that's the way England took Canada from La Nouvelle France. Okay, but for at least 10 years after, l'Acte de Québec is the King of England recognized the minority, the French minority, recognized different rights, which is a way of managing with these people he took over, and he wanted them to obey and to be subjects, British subjects. So he had to do compromises, the King of England, by the Acte de Québec, 1774, which is a moment very important in the history of Canada. More important than 1763, where French goes to English. Doesn't make a big difference, but 1774, the rights are written down there, and have always stayed upon the rights of the French minority, because the King of England could not manage with this country, who was full of French subjects, who were French subjects. So we were forced to respect rights of minorities through our history. Was it because of the rigorous Canadian climate, the wideness of the country, or the dissemination of people or the history of immigration in Canada, there's many explanations to see that this country was forced to respect rights of minorities. Many groups have often been discriminated and have suffered. Japanese, throughout our history. Black, throughout our history. Native people, of course, throughout our history. They have suffered, but there was a day in Canada for recognizing errors and injustices, and Canada has to continue in that path. I was amazed by Caitlin at the beginning, the recognition of this is very important to think about what you're saying. And it's not just, okay, this territory was not seized. It means something. We did not endure civil war like our American neighbors in Canada. We managed throughout our history with all these sufferings, all these groups, we managed no civil war in our history. This is something we went through many compromises, often criticized as a way of continuing peaceful cohabitation. Let us see the Canadian capacity of living together in diversity as a great achievement and not as a mark of weakness. Let us be proud of our capacity and our evolution in recognizing the rights of all kinds of different Canadians. That's the message I wanted to say to you this morning. Thank you.